Hi all, this is going to be a quick demo of our DKAN MCP server module, and this is a Drupal module built on the Drupal AI ecosystem that extends our DKAN sites to have MCP server functionality. So essentially this takes most of the functionality we would have available through our REST APIs and kind of gives it an experience that's more tuned for AI agents and AI models to be able to work with the data easier. So we've got a couple different roles available. We can connect as a read-only user, and this will give us access to tools that are read-only. So if we're doing data analysis, just query in the site, this is the role we would use. Editor access has everything we have access to in the read-only user, but also adds some additional tools for actually managing the site, importing data sets, and destructive actions if we do want to have that available. So I'm going to go ahead and initialize a session here, and this will connect to our MCP server. We'll query it for the list of available tools, and then also load up resources and prompts. So tools are kind of the main component most people think of when they think of MCP servers, and these are tools that a model has access to, essentially has a function it can call and return data back, and then has a description of the tool of how to use it. So this gives context to an agent of how to use these tools, which is generally more effective than trying to parse through a REST API or scrape data off the site. This is really tuning an API layer for agent access. And then we've also got a couple other standard MCP primitives available here. So resources are generally application controlled. So the application we are connecting to our MCP server can choose to load some of this data into context and just have it available across interactions. And this is generally something that, is controlled at the application layer. Not really something we're going to control from the server, but just having it available for applications to use if needed. And then prompts are a primitive that are generally user controlled, and these are kind of pre-built prompts that we can have a user trigger if we want to execute certain actions that are common. So we can trigger all of these manually through the interface here, but more common, the model is going to be the one to trigger these. So if we put in a question here, let's say find data sets related to healthcare. And send that. So we can see our agent executed a tool search for search data sets, passing in the keyword healthcare, receives back a response that we can drill into, gives us a snapshot of the context that it currently has at this point in the flow, and then the model actually gives us a response based on our query and shows us what tools it called to get that response back. So we can take a look at the context here, and this is the system prompt from our application. And we also have server instructions we can pass back from our MCP server module, and this essentially gives agents connecting to our DKAN MCP server kind of instructions on what's available, how to use the MCP tools, and just kind of additional context in addition to all of the tool descriptions. And we can also dig in and see these are all the tools that our agent currently has access to. And we can actually drill in and see what the descriptions are. So this is everything that gets pulled into context for our agent and just gives it more information about how to work with the MCP server and kind of what's available. You've also got a diagram view here kind of showing where the interactions happen in this flow. So we've initiated a session, populates all of the tools and resources and prompts. Here's our healthcare search we entered into the text box there, and we can see, our application is calling our MCP server, getting the tool results, passing back to the model with context, and then it goes back and forth between the MCP server and the model to kind of eventually arrive at that answer that gets sent back to the user. So if we change sessions here, we can see we have some additional tools that get loaded, and we'll give you a warning that these can cause destructive actions just because these are write actions to the database. And this is not something you would typically have to a public-facing, MCP server that's meant for anonymous users. This is really meant for admin access, but we do have it available if we want to administer a DKAN site with an agent. So this is generally not something you would run on a production site, but just having this available for developers and power users we thought was important to include. Yeah, I think that's about all for the features in this. So thank you for watching, and hope we'll do another one soon.